to catching dinner. Today, trying to go for kokanees. We've been catching them lately, ever since we came that first time, and we got to see how good they taste. I'm hooked. So I've been coming back, and today I'm hoping for dinner again. So what I'm doing here is jigging with 2 holes to attract the kokanees. I have spoons on top. They're called Dodgers, and I'm at about 25 feet of water. Today I'm by myself. Nobody else wanted to come. It's too cold. As soon as I put my pole in, my line in earlier, got a bite. So they're definitely here. Good. Look at that. Nice little fat one. They're all been pretty fat, but this one's pretty fat. So they've been hitting pretty good today. Hey, I mean, that's what you dream of. Great day on the ice. Fish all on the way up. Look at that. I mean, I'm a lucky guy right now. What a great day on 11 Mile Reservoir. It's starting to get windy, but early was pretty nice. I was able to catch my limit by 1 o'clock, kokanees, and it was a hoot. And yeah, I got into them. They were really aggressive today, more than ever. And couldn't get anybody else to come out today, but it's all right. I mean, still had a good time. It's just a lot more fun when you have somebody to share with. So what I was using today is Mike's Kokanee glow scent. That's what I was putting on the lures and the spoons. I mean, I'm not sure if it helped, but it didn't hurt, that's for sure. And I was using this longer rod here. I don't know if you can see. It's medium action. That's a Nuggly stick by Shakespeare, and works great. I was using this Dodger too. I bend it a little bit, so when I pull it up, it really comes down with a nice action. Then I have over 20 inches of a 6-pound test mono filament. With the main line is 6 pound. This is actually 8-pound test, and those fish don't seem to be nervous. I mean, doesn't seem like it's deterred them since I switched over to 8-pound test versus 6-pound. It's just maybe a little thicker, but it just makes it easier when the fish comes out. I can hold on to the Dodger when it's committed in the hole. I just slowly pull, and I just have a little more strength there to be able to get the fish out. So but yeah, I don't start pulling on the Dodger until the fish is definitely committed and I see it right through the hole. If it's on the edge and I start pulling, it's going to come undone. Their mouth is pretty soft, and that's one of the challenges with kokanees, is that, yeah, they fight like the dickens. I mean, they go crazy, when you hook them, and then the fact that their mouth, especially in the corner, is very weak. You know, they don't have a very well built jaw there, and it's very easy to rip it. So it makes it a little more challenging. And this is Swedish pimple that I was using with this setup. So I was going back and forth. I had Swedish pimple, and I was going back and forth between two poles that were within 10 feet. So I could just work them and keep them interested, and that's what I found to work, you know. If I just kept going with one, eventually they just get bored. But if I kept switching it back and forth, my other line was another Dodger like this. Again, 8-pound test at the bottom, 6-pound on top, monofilament. I was using this little guy here, Castmaster, 1/4 ounce, and with little dots like that. Might look like a trout, I guess, I'm not sure, but they seem to like it. And I was putting on 2 wax worms, 2 nice juicy wax worms, real life. I mean, I've noticed that they're pretty picky, you know. There's got to be some nice looking bait fresh. And then I put a salmon egg too, and that seems to seal the deal. At least today it did. You know, I was able to catch my limit again by 1 o'clock. The bigger fish was 15-inch. You know, nice little kokanee, pretty fat. You know, about the width of my hand, if you could see. So it's, you know, great eaters. I mean, I can't say enough about those kokanees. They're phenomenal. I don't know if you saw the last video. That was my first kokanee that I caught, and we did a video on blackening it in the cast iron, and just phenomenal. I mean, just phenomenal meat. And putting a little sugar in the spices really caramelizes it, and it just brings it all together with a little rosemary. Just phenomenal. And yeah, that kind of wraps it up. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I should talk about. I was using this hand auger. It works. You don't have to do too many holes for kokanees once you get into them. So I just used this 8-inch Strike Master hand auger. Works great. I definitely recommend 8 inches. First time I came with a 6-inch auger and lost some fish because the hole wasn't big enough for them to really commit easily. Because they have the corner of their mouth that is a little soft. Let me show you. And now the rest of their mouth is pretty sturdy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's not that weak. It's just compared to a trout, the corner of the mouth is actually pretty flimsy. So if I were to just hook it here, you know, right in the corner of the mouth, I don't know if you can see, I have it right in the corner. So if I start pulling, it's actually pretty weak, you know, and you'll see it'll just pull right out, just like that. Those fish eat a lot of plankton. They don't really feed on minnows, and they don't really have to hold on to their prey. So their mouth in the corner is soft. Now, the rest of the mouth is still, you know, pretty well built, especially the snout, you know, the nose. I mean, there's no way, once it's a good hook set, I mean, it's not going to come undone. I mean, I'm pulling, and it's just, most of the fish I've caught, I land them like that. Sometimes the trouble is the whole mouth, and it's just not going anywhere. It's really only when you get that corner of the mouth that's an issue. So the rest of it is still pretty sturdy, so you still have to set the hook pretty good. That's why you don't want to pull that's too soft, but you don't want something that's too hard either. And because while you're fighting them, if it is not well hooked, you definitely don't want to lose the fish. So yeah, that's about all the tips I can give you here. So I've just been doing it for 2 weeks, and I'm having a great time. And today was obviously my best day so far. Got a whole limit. I'll show you in a minute those fish. And hey, hope you guys can get out here. It's 11 Mile Reservoir in Colorado, and the kokanees are biting. They're a 2.5-year-old. Now's the time, really, because as they get older, 3.5, 4.5, next year they'll be spawning and they'll die, you know. And then they haven't really been replenishing the stock. They haven't been stocking them. So now's the time, really. Here I am showing you a slightly different setup that we used towards the end of the season that definitely made a big difference in our success rate. Now, I still have that Dodger that I showed you earlier at the top with about 20 inches of line down from there is the flash lure. Now, Swedish pimple, like I showed you, or a Castmaster. Now, we did bait the flash lure with a salmon egg and also a wax or a mealworm. But to that, we added a drop line, you know, 4 inches, we dropped the line to a small hook that we also baited with a meal or a wax worm. Now this setup really made a big difference, especially when the bite started to slow down. We noticed more often than not, the fish took the lower bait than the bait on the flash lure. And overall, we caught a lot more fish. So hey, I thought I'd share with you this little tidbit because I sure wish I would have known about it earlier, because I'm sure I would have caught more fish. Now we're gonna head to the kitchen and we're going to show you how to make some delicious lox with the kokanee we just got. So as you can see, I had a great day on the ice, caught my limit of kokanees. So what do you do when you catch that many if you don't have a big family and you can't eat them all fresh? Because trust me, fresh is best by far. But second best is to freeze some and use some later, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm actually using some to, actually I'm going to use this guy right here, one of the bigger ones I caught, to make some delicious lox. Lox is basically, if you've never had it, it's very common in the northeast of the United States. They'll use it on bagels. It's a Jewish delicacy, and it's awesome. I mean, so we're going to do that, and I'll show you how. Very easy, one of the simplest recipes you could ever do. So let's get started. So here's the salmon I caught. The other day I scaled it. So scaling is very easy. You just take your knife or a dull blade and you just go against the scales and they'll all be popping off, and you know, you just clean it. And then at this point you could use the whole fish and just put it like that in a bag with basically sugar and salt, which is basically how we're going to be curing this thing. But today I'll just put in fillets. It'll be a little easier. It won't take as much time to cure. So yeah, I'll start with this side. So you just, as you know, just follow the backbone at a slight angle. And this knife is really sharp, so I have to be careful. Here's that fillet. So I'll show you how I do it with this guy. You can imagine the other. Same thing as I did in the other kokanee fishing video. So what I'm doing here is that there's little bones along the top here. So yeah, the less bone the better, so obviously. So I'm just taking that out, slight angle here, a little more. You don't want to remove too much of the fish, you just want to get the bones. That's why you got to take your time, no rush. Here there's just a little bit of fat, that little extra fin on top. So we're good with the top. Now here there's little remnants of bone, so got those two. And you can just put your hand along, you know, if you just slowly feel for bones, you'll feel them. So now we're left with the bottom rib cage. Now very important not to remove too much of the fish here. You're really just going for the bones. So again, take your time. So what I'm doing here is just trying to glide right underneath those small bones. And again, they're pretty small, but so slight angle. I'm really trying to not lose, because I mean that's the price, is that meat. So but relatively easy if you take your time. I mean, see, I'm left with some beautiful fish. But originally, lox was made from salmon, but mainly the belly, because that's got a highest fat content. So you know, that's why it's pretty expensive and all. But it still works with the rest of the meat. You know, just, you know, we're gonna have a little bit of belly fat here, but not as much as the original recipe, which is fine. Still gonna be awesome. Pretty excited. Alright, so again, we got the bottom here taken care of. Come at a slight angle. And really, you want to keep as much as possible here. There's that fin. There we go. Just go around. And then just a slight angle again. You can see it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, look at that beautiful meat. So that's basically what it should look like when you're done. Now there's another option. You could remove also, there's a little, they're called pin bones. They come right perpendicular right along here. If you feel for them, you'll feel them. They're right in here. Very, very small bones. If you're really anal about it, you don't want any bones, you could literally take a little tweezer and pull them out. I'm not going to do that. Simple reason is they're so small. Even when I eat the fish, normally, I mean, I eat those bones, they're so small you barely notice them unless you're really, you know, trying to find them. So I'm going to leave them in. It's really not a big deal, because when we'll be slicing the lox, we want it real thin. There's no way you'll ever know those bones are there. But again, if it's a big deal to you, you can always remove them, and you know, it'll take you a little while. So that's the fillet. Beautiful. So I'll do the same with the other one, and I'll show you after we're going to cure this and put this in the fridge. Okay, next step, I got the meat ready here. So it's all about the cure. So what we're using here is brown sugar. We're using cup and almost 2 cups, cup and 3/4, and a full cup of salt. So that's all that's truly needed to cure the fish. Reason being, the salt is going to be drawing some of that moisture out, and the sugar is going to help make it so it's not so salty, obviously. Now, there's a lot of debate as far as what's the exact ratio. Some people by weight will go and do 1-to-1, makes for a little bit blender. The more salt you add, the saltier it gets, the more sugar you add. So it all depends on taste, really. There's no right or wrong, just whatever you like. And you could add spices. Here we're going to keep it pretty simple, but we can add a little dill. Dill's, you know, it's pretty good with this. But I think we're just going to keep it simple today. Just, you know, stick to the basics, salt and some sugar. So we're going to mix it. So I'm just going to put my full cup, and then just going to mix it. So it's, well, you know, so it's not just too much salt in one spot. So it's so easy, it's not even funny. So what's going to happen is that all the moisture is going to come out of the fish, and how long you leave it in the mixture is going to dictate how firm the fish is going to be, because obviously as it dries out, it gets a little stiffer. So if you want it a little softer, you don't leave it as long. If you want it a little firmer, leave it longer. So here we're going to do, you know, maybe 3.5 days. That should be just perfect. Maybe 3. You know, you don't want it to be too hard. So you see it's all well mixed. So we're good to go. So I'm using is a you know, good size Ziploc bag.
Gallon.
Yeah, gallon size. You could use, you know, some good old plastic wrap, you know, plastic food wrap. That would work too. So I'm gonna put a copious amount. That's gonna be the bottom here. Now, depending on how much fish you have too, you just have to use more. I mean, I'm just doing this one fish. Okay, so as you can see, I have a pretty good layer of, you know, the brown sugar and the salt there, that mixture at the bottom. I'm going to lay the fish right on top of it. Now, because again, I'm just doing 2 fillets here. What I'll do is put them at an angle, and I'll show you why. Just like that. What's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of moisture being drawn out of there. So I'm going to put the bag in the fridge at an angle a little bit, so all the juices go in the corner. So it makes for a, you know, a better cure. Now I'm going to put the rest here right on top. Doesn't get easier than this. Just make sure it's well covered. Very important, obviously. If some people are worried as far as could they get worms or any kind of parasites from this, because I froze it, I have a freezer that's -10. I did it for many days. There's no way there's anything left. But if, let's say, you just fillet a fish and put it in there, in theory, the parasite should die from curing it. But, you know, if you're a little worried about it, I mean, I froze it just because I had to. I didn't have time to get this done right away when I caught the fish. So if you're a little worried, that's fail-safe. Put it in the freezer, especially those colder freezers, the -10, you know, chest freezers. And then once you do this, there's absolutely no chance of any parasites, you know, being an issue. And I'm just putting weight on top of it. You don't have to put a lot of weight. What it'll help do is actually squeeze some of that moisture out, and it will definitely be drawn out by the salt and the sugar, which naturally will draw the moisture out. But I'm just putting a little bit of weight. I mean, you could use anything. I'm just using this here. You know, cookbooks work best. Nah, just joking. There's a lot of misconception. People think that LOX is smoke. But what's happened has been changed over time. So the true LOX that people are getting Northeast, it's actually being cured first in the dry cure, and then they'll actually cold smoke it. So there's actually some smoking involved. But the original recipe didn't call for that. It's just back then they would just cure it, and it would preserve the fish for some days. So we'll see you soon. Can't wait to check it out. Here's how it looks in the fridge. It's just easier to do it outside of the fridge. I put a little piece of wood there to create that slight angle so all the juices would drain, and you could actually see right here juices are all at the bottom there. I'm just gonna clean that up and put it back for another day, and it's working great. I just made that little slit in the Ziploc bag, and can't wait to taste it. I just figured give you a little update, show you how it looks, how it's supposed to look. So we'll see you next for the final product. It's been 3 long days of waiting, and finally, the grand reveal. We get to have our LOX. I tested it this morning. It's perfect consistency. If you wait longer, it's gonna get basically a little stiffer, and you know, we want it to still be soft enough to be like regular lox that you put on bagels, but to your preference, you know. So 3 days for this size fish, it worked out perfect. Let me just show you the slices I just made with the other fillet. And yeah, nice and thin. You just come at an angle, and that'll be perfect. And like I said, we just had some, and it's unbelievable. So what I do is just, you know, close to 45 degrees, and just make nice little slivers, you know, not too thick. And then it gets easier as I start to come a little further out, and then you really start seeing some nicer, you know, pieces. Yeah, you don't want any skin on it, so there you go. And then yeah, just more of the same. You just keep on slicing at a nice, try to be as even as possible. Yeah, look at that nice salmon. Okay, so we finished preparing everything. We even eaten a little bit, some of it, just to make sure it was, you know, to our standards, and we could really give a good review here.
Yep.
And so what do you think?
I think it is fantastic. It's one of our best batches of lox ever. It's so much fun to make your own lox, and it tastes great. I mean, it's better than store-bought, of course.
Definitely.
And man, is it ever good. You got to try this.
Yeah, and if you don't have access to kokanees like we did, obviously not everyone can go catch their own kokanees. So you could just go to the store and get some salmon and make yourself a batch, and you'll see it's super easy, just like I showed you guys. I mean, just salt and brown sugar, and then I just drained it every day for 3 days, and just perfect consistency. Now, if you get a bigger salmon, you might have to, or you know, thicker fillets, you might have to do it a little bit longer, which makes sense, obviously. So you have to keep checking on it. When it reaches the, you know, the right firmness, you're ready to go, and you get to enjoy some nice bagels. I mean, you could do it differently, but you know, that's just the way we like to enjoy our lox, is on a bagel, which is pretty common.
Yeah, bagel, cream cheese, and lox. Can't beat it for breakfast. Usually, catching dinner makes dinners, but this time we're making breakfast, and we've made a fantastic breakfast with our own lox. Hope you guys get to try it. It is so good.
Awesome.
So, yeah, if you like what we did here, if you liked seeing how to make lox, and you want to try it yourself, hope that you do. Leave us a like if you enjoyed the video. Leave us a comment. Let us know how your lox came out. And if you have any suggestions to make our videos better, we're always happy to hear them.